Hello, and welcome to another episode of Keeping It Real, Staying Alive Edition. This is officially episode number 6 of the show where we create positive social support as we collaborate with other advocates in the mental health and fitness fields. And thank you, Chris, for joining. Appreciate you, brother. We're going to be having a special, hey, Efren and Undepressionable Inc. That is our special guest arriving right now. As I was saying, this is the 6th official episode of the show where we create positive social support and share mental health tools with you guys. And our 6th official guest is Mr. Bryan T Forsythe, author of a powerful book. He's going to come on and tell us a little bit about it. And let's see, here he is now. Let me see if I can let him in here. And hopefully this thing works again. Thank you. Hey there, Bryan. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's up, man? I'm so happy to be on your show. Sack Life Official is in the house. You are awesome.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much for supporting. I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, man. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. It's good to finally see your face, like digital face to face, you know? Nice beard, by the way. Dope beard you got growing there.
Yeah,
and
I kept thinking maybe I should tell him that I got a beard, because in the promo pic I sent you, that was I just retired from the Navy, and so that pic was taken when I was still in the Navy, and this is the retired look. I'm taking it easy, no more shaving and all that.
Yeah, if you got nobody pressuring you to shave, why shave? You know?
Yeah. I like your beard. I'm gonna grow up mine a little longer, more like yours too. I told my wife, she's like, I'm gonna have like a little, little more growth going there.
This is my quarantine beard, honestly.
Oh, really?
Like I don't know if it's gonna be this long forever, but once we're out of quarantine, I think I'm gonna shape this thing up because it's starting to get out of hand.
Yeah.
You know?
It looks good. I always tell my wife the fact that anybody can grow a beard. Because some guys can't. Like, some guys got like patches and all this stuff. And
yeah.
So I'm just happy I get to grow one. I have 20 years of naval service, and my face is like, whee! It's so happy.
Hey, I feel you on that one, man. I couldn't have a beard for almost 30 years because of religious reasons, but that's no longer part of my life. So now, beard it is, But that being said, I wanted to thank you. We thank you already for being on the show. I wanted you to let people know what it is you're doing, what you're doing nowadays, what you've been up to.
All right. So I'm the author of Crack the Depression Code. It's a self-help depression primer. It's really meant to sort of, because I had a near suicidal breakdown almost to the day today, 5 years ago. And when I went through treatment and all the stuff, I realized that a lot of people, were denying their depression, and they weren't taking it seriously, and they were just sort of fighting through the periods and the blue periods and stuff. So I wrote this book kind of to say, these are some of the things you want to look for. There's a quiz in the book, so you can take a quiz and see, whether or not you kind of recognize some of these things. And then at the end of it, I talk about, sort of my, what's the 6 things that I've learned that enable me to live undepressionable. And that's kind of what the book's about.
Yeah, that's I've been reading the book just recently, and it's got some powerful stuff in there. You mentioned the quiz. I've read over the quiz, and that's good stuff. Even if you've gotten past that deep depression phase and you're now going through daily life, highly functional, taking that quiz every once in a while, keep yourself in check, is it's great to have that tool available, have that information available. And also, I just want to remind everybody, this is kind of an open combo, and I want to shout out to everybody who's popping in there: Prax the Explorer, Let's Heal Loud, Maurice, Chris. Appreciate everybody tuning in. If you guys have comments or questions, feel free to shoot them out here. Chris said he's glad you're still here, Bryan.
Hey, I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate that. You're awesome.
Yeah, and I'm glad too because you're providing really powerful information to people, a lot of people who need it. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, that's kind of my that's my why, is to because depression did almost kill me and has taken years of my life, and so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, that's our second official question for our guests is we like to ask them why. What is it that that made you want to write this book, basically?
Yeah,
Is your
yeah, I
personal
wrote the book because I wanted people to sort of see my story. I wanted them to see that this is what can happen, if they're not taking these feelings, these blue periods, this hopelessness, and all these different things. If they're just pushing past that and trying to appear normal, whatever in the heck normal actually is, um, then this can happen. And so I wrote the book, just to sort of to help people sort of maybe see, and take what they're dealing with more seriously, and not to feel like they're most importantly not to feel like they're alone, right? Because depression tends to make us feel like we're the only ones, and that nothing can help us and all these different things. And so that's kind of why I wrote that book.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And you mentioned feeling normal, right? There is no normal, pretty much. We're all individuals. We all have individual ways to process, individual ways to express ourselves and feel emotions. And books like yours are great for letting us know we're not alone in this negative kind of mindset that depression induces into whatever our daily narrative is.
Right.
When we wind up with that kind of clinical depression where you have that imbalance, I'm sure you can relate, it manifests kind of these negative thoughts and emotions that might be out of the normal for us, but they're actually normal for a lot of people
Sure.
because it's an epidemic. There's so many people dealing with depression and it's undiagnosed. And a large part of that undiagnosed is because they don't even realize, right? They don't realize until someone like yourself or some other mental health advocate brings it to our attention that this is like a treatable condition. I
Right.
think that's the biggest takeaways from the book that you're putting out there, that this is treatable. This is something we don't have to live with forever. We don't have to be in this dark, deep state forever.
Right.
There's actually a way out. You found it. I found a way out through my personal journey. And there's a lot of us out there finding different avenues that work for us. And there's no reason to give up hope, right? Every day is another opportunity to make progress or to grow or to find new tools.
Yeah. That's the whole deal is you know just keep pushing, keep just don't fall for this idea that it's never going to get better. Like one of the things that I talk about in the book is to make sure that you're doing some kind of journaling. And I have sheets. I have these journaling sheets that's part of the undepressionable course and method and all this stuff. But basically, it's just uh, pay attention, right, to the best that you can, that depression ends. That you go through these cyclical, because depression is cyclical. That's the number one thing that I want people to know, is that depression is, it's not like this, and it seems like it's this, but in truth
Yeah.
it's this. And the only way you're really going to pay attention and know whether it's this right here for you and where you are in the highs and the lows and the cycles is actually by doing some type of journaling, making note of what of your mental, what I call the inner garden, the inner garden. What is the content, and what is the tone of the inner speech that you're allowing, right? And
Yeah.
and so if you can do your daily journaling, maybe not daily, because I know, if you're dealing with depression for real, if you're like in some of the dark places that you can be in, maybe not as functional, unfortunately, then it's hard. It's not, it's easy. I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm just saying that it's possible. when you can, if you can pay attention to the fact that there are valleys and there's troughs, and where are
Yeah.
you in that? Maybe you need to be more gentle with yourself if you're in a low spot, and
Right.
it's just sort of kind of know where you are in the cycle, and that help a lot.
That step is like that's awareness. You're raising awareness to yourself,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah,
Right. It's the first step. And yeah, I'm glad you mentioned too that depending on where you are in your depressive cycle, maybe that's too much. Maybe journaling not today. Maybe you wait a little while until you can be a little more functional and then start journaling.
yeah.
Um, because that's something there's a lot of stigma around mental health issues, and because of that stigma people don't talk about it. People are not open about what it's like to deal with it, and it's also individual per person, right? Some of us deal with it in different ways, but one of the things I found while dealing with some of my deeper depressive states was that I felt like physically my body was heavier. um, I was flooded with the thought that you can't get out of bed, you
Oh,
can't make a meal for yourself, you can't, like it's almost not even worth it.
yeah,
And important to note that those thoughts are temporary
right.
and they'll pass. And the proof that they're temporary is that I did get out of bed, I did make a meal, I'm still here, right?
Yep.
And raising awareness to that, just acknowledging that those are temporary. That kind of goes along with the process you're talking about. And then we can give ourselves time when we're out of that temporary state to journal so we can make that progress.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
very cool.
It's
Um,
it's really hard to see like how amazing you're doing, and like how consistent you're doing, and like this phenomenon that is Sac Life Official. And it's just like really awesome, really powerful stuff. And it's funny because it's really hard to conceptualize where you were compared to where you are, because
I feel like a largely different person um, nowadays in so many good ways. And it's just being consistent, showing up for myself every day, sticking to a dedication that's not a burden. There's something, this is enjoyable to me. This is something fun I do. It's like my recreational activity,
right.
but it's also upbuilding me both mentally and physically for multiple reasons.
Hmm.
We're trying to raise awareness that the bag is actually a powerful mental health tool. There are some psychiatric practices that actually use the bag in their own personal outlets, their own personal treatment plans for some of their patients,
Right.
but it's not really widely known or widely spread. So that's what our goal is, to raise awareness that boxing training beats depression, that the bag is a mental health tool, because there's a much larger group of people that can use this bag for mental health than there is that will use it for fitness or for boxing training. That's where it's most beneficial.
Yeah,
So
I thought, like, I really love the visualizing, because in talking about the undepressionable method, and my methods and stuff, like I use a lot of visualization, and all these different things, and imagining like putting the depression or anxiety or whatever it is, like, because one of the things, obviously that and that many people kind of are aware that they're dealing in this space, is the externalizing the attention, is powerful. Getting, that's one of the things that I talk about in the book, is really paying attention to the external, because depression is just a great word. Depression is like, just like crushes you down, and suddenly you're like, I call it, it's like being a misfunctional sponge, because
mm,
a sponge naturally is supposed to suck everything up, and if you're dealing with depression, you won't suck anything up except for all the black water that's around you, which is crazy.
yeah.
But so if you can just externalize, if you can get your attention to the external, then that can really help, break that. And we talked about, I just think that's really cool, because getting people to externalize and visualize, that's one of the things I really like about your method, about the fact that, about the stuff, about how you do your thing. And of
Thanks,
course,
man.
with the exercise, and because that's also one of my things is get up, man. Like whatever, to whatever extent you can, you exercise your body every day, even if it's just like some push-ups or sit-ups, just sitting up out of bed, like whatever it is you can do,
Yep.
and
Intensity. There's a huge benefit to low intensity exercise every day, even if you're just going for a walk, just getting up and getting in motion, you know?
yeah, yeah,
I think I lost you there for a second. But
yeah. Somebody from, I think, Tanzania called me. They're probably wanting me to buy a condo.
uh, we don't need that noise right now.
No.
But yeah, I was just saying there's even a benefit to low intensity exercise. Like just getting up and going for a walk can change your mood a little bit.
Yep.
Just getting active, getting in motion. And I think one of the benefits there is that activated feeling that we get from anxiety and stress and reassociating it with a physical activity that we do to our benefit. It's kind of retraining our brain in a way to handle that stress in a positive way.
Yeah.
So that's what we're all trying to do the same thing. I think we're all working for the same team out here. We call it Team Human. Um,
Yeah, I like that. We need a shirt.
yeah,
Um,
it's good stuff. So I'm glad that we're able to link up through this tool of Instagram. And I've got my tool over here. You've got your tool set. And speaking about tools, I'd like to ask everybody if they have a tool they could share with us when they come on the show. So is there something you've prepared that maybe you can share with us? We could practice at home or put into daily
um,
practice.
so I just want to encourage people to do what I call watch versus be, right? And so a lot of people tend to think that their thoughts are like theirs, and they claim them as who they are, and that's a problem a lot of times for people, because a lot of our thoughts that we have, that we experience, are just like, oh my God, like, especially if we have like intrusive thoughts and stuff like that. So, I would just encourage people to pay attention to this idea that it's possible to step back and sort of, watch your thoughts, and just sort of let them wave over you like water, or light, something that's absolutely, that has no weight or value at all. But just imagine if your thoughts are like shadow, and they're
Hmm.
just like, just cast upon you, and you're just watching them. You're watching like these shadows,
Hmm.
and to really experiment with this idea of watching your thoughts versus being your thoughts. And because that's really powerful, if you let it be. Because if you can, especially if you're dealing with like stress, you're dealing with depression, depressive thoughts, and these dark things, these dark thoughts that can happen. If you can learn to what's called drop anchor, which is basically externalize the thought. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are you smelling? What are you feeling? Like, what does the clothes feel like? So you're externalizing your attention in a
Hmm.
conscious way, and then that can enable you to sort of step back and be the reporter versus the beer. So think
Hmm.
about when you're moving through your life and you're having, various issues, or whatever. If you just want to experiment with this, just be the reporter. Like, this is what's happening, not
Hmm.
I am, or whatever. So you're kind of experimenting with this idea of stepping back from experience and watching experience versus sort of being swamped by experience.
You're changing that inner monologue, right? Instead of I feel, it's more like I'm watching this feeling,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm noting this feeling going by.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just
You and it's not I'm sad, it's I'm experiencing sadness, right?
right. Yeah.
It's kind of like a mindset tool that lets you ground yourself more into reality and disconnect from those temporary feelings, right?
Right. Yes. You got it. Fact Life's in the house. He knows
Yeah,
what's
I mean, I do my best to try and learn as many things as I can that'll be beneficial to me. And then if I can, I love sharing what I find with others. That's part of the reason why we created this show, to try and share those tools. So that's very cool. It's called Watch versus Be, and it's kind of a mix of mindfulness, grounding, and then an observational mindset so that you can take note of what's going on through your physical body
Right.
as opposed to being absorbed and consumed by that emotion. You could just take note of it
Yep.
and wait for it to pass, right?
Right. Yep. That's the important thing, is because if you can take note of it, then you can note, like if you can consciously take note of it versus being swamped by it, then you can actually, you know, you can notice that it's it's cyclical. It's not, bad doesn't happen consistently. There's like really dark places, and then there's sort of dark places, and there's, so it's not going to be what it is all of the time.
Yeah.
I was reading a book one time, and this guy, very, very powerful man, clearly, because he did nothing but helped people in hospice that are at some point very soon going to die, and they're in pain, and they're in constant pain. And and somebody asked him, like, what, how does, what does he tell these people? And he says, well, look for the end. That if the pain, is the pain constant, or does the pain end? And if the pain ends at some point, then celebrate it. Celebrate the end, or celebrate the lessening, even if it's just the lessening of this intenseness. And I could never do that. I got to be honest. I could never. But he could, and he did, and he helped a lot of people. And but that's what I have today, is just to celebrate that it isn't just one continual long thing, that it does have troughs and valleys.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And there is hope, right? There is always hope that
Always
things will
hope.
get better.
Always
100%.
hope.
And we're living examples of the fact that you can get past these emotions, you can get past these feelings. And
Yeah.
the more that we talk about it, the more we find others in the same experience. So it's not uncommon to overcome these things. It's not like we're superheroes out here. We're just human beings, and we're willing to be vocal about what we've dealt with. And that's
Yeah.
like, I think one of the best things we can do for society is to talk about the issues that are killing us, because it's literally killing us. Like the
Yeah.
suicide rate, for people, even young people, young healthy people are killing themselves because of depression, because of anxiety, and they don't realize that it's normal. It's
Right.
it's practically normal with the rate that it's increasing, especially with this isolation and this quarantine. It's the norm.
Yeah.
Depression and anxiety are the norm. So we've got to, for the sake of progress, for the sake of ourselves and others, we've got to talk about it. We've got to move forwards. So thank you so much for being a part of that and doing what you do. Just for people who are tuning in now and anybody who's tuning in later, you can find Bryan's book on his Instagram page at the top and his link in bio. We've also included a link in the pinned comment in the comment section. I don't know if you guys can tap that. I'm not familiar if those links work, but you could definitely check it out on Amazon. Just search Crack the Depression Code, and it'll come up there. Very powerful stuff. Would you like to talk about anything else that was covered in the book, or let people know anything about how that's working in your life? Do you still reference the book personally for yourself?
Well, so the book, I guess one of the things that I want to talk about, referencing what is in the book, is the idea that you can't control your thoughts, and that you absolutely have no control over what the automatic mind is doing, and that if you hear nothing else, just know that you're not responsible for the timbre, the content, the number of your thoughts. That your brain basically just kicks out thoughts 24 hours a day, and then at some point you say, I want to know what 2 plus 2 is, and your brain kicks it out. But before that, until you actively, consciously point your mind in a direction, it is essentially an idea machine. And 9 times out of 10, the things that it cranks out is, not super useful, may not even be true. And so absolve yourself of the need or the feeling or the obligation to control your thoughts towards a specific thing or away from a specific thing, because that's a lie. It's a lie that your thoughts are your own. Your thoughts, and you can make the decision. This is the important part, right? You can make the decision whether or not you want to claim a thought. So especially like with me, I'm a father. So when I hear, my mind tell me that I'm a, idiot father and I'm a horrible father and my son's going to hate me when he's 17, then, I can say, well, no, thank you, thought. Thank you, brain. And that's the other thing is that when you have these thoughts, there's a tendency to like say, roar, but it's more useful just to be like, thank you. Thank you, thought. Thank you, brain. But I'm not doing that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Step into it and accept that thought as just a thought.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of trying to resist it.
Right.
And fight it.
Don't try to like get rid of it. Don't be like, I don't want to think that. It's just, thank you, mind. Be be warm, be gracious, whatever that, however gracious, accepting of your thought. But just don't be like all, fired up at like, because it's a thought that you don't like or you don't want or whatever. You always have the capability of just saying, thank you, and just I'm not doing that. I'm not following that deep dark thought. I'm not, I'm not a bad person. I'm not, and if you really want to get powerful, then do a thought journal and just sit for like a minute, 30 seconds, and just write down all of your thoughts. And then once you finish however long it is, a minute, 2 minutes, whatever it is, then you can go back and you can look at your thoughts and say, I don't agree with this thought. This thought is not useful, and you just delete it.
Yeah.
And then if you have a thought, then you're like, well, that's kind of true. It is true that some things are my fault. Then you can restate it. And then the other ones that you fully support, then you take those. And then if you really want to get serious, and maybe this will help, is you can take your thoughts that you've restated and the thoughts that you appreciate, and then you can make them like a your weekly mantra for the week, and then you can kind of support. And then you're not making all of your thoughts wrong or bad, or because that's not useful either. But you're just taking like these ones that you fully support and these ones that you restated, and you're now taking conscious control over what's there. And you're also telling your mind, these are the thoughts that I want, and your mind will tend to produce the ones that you pay more attention to.
And that's where you have that choice. That's where we don't have a choice to stop thoughts. They're going to happen, but we have a choice what we do with them, right? We can journal them, we can use them, we can acknowledge them and say, this is just a thought, or we can acknowledge them and say, this is a thought I enjoy. This is a thought I want to think more about. And that's where our power, that's where our control comes in. I think a lot of people feel powerless when they're in this depressive state. They feel like these thoughts are never going to end. They're all consuming. They're all we can think about. And it's just negative, 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 negative. And knowing that we have a choice, that's one of the biggest things, I think, for me, when I was down, like at my darkest point, when I was kind of at that critical level of depression, I understood, or it dawned on me that I have to make a choice. I have to decide how I'm going to handle this. No one is going to decide it for me. No doctor or therapist or medication is going to make an active choice that I want to make better decisions or I want to help myself. Like there's nothing that will do that for us. People have to come to a point where they want to help themselves, where they want to get better. And for me, it took me getting down to a very, very dark place in order to to find that I had that choice. But I gotta say, since I made that choice to help myself, since I made that choice to start doing research and putting effort in of my own volition, my life has dramatically improved from that point on. Dramatically. And I went through all different forms of therapy, like psychiatrists and psychologists, and I was on meds, and I tried all different things. But ultimately, it was that mindset of I'm choosing now not to end things, but to make things better. I think my mindset when I was in that depressive state was I just want this to stop. I just want it to end. You know, you just want to stop suffering. And the mindset changed into I just want help instead of I want it to end. I just want help. What do I really want? I don't really want it to end.
Right.
I want to enjoy my life. So I want help. And then the next step was I want to help myself. I need to help myself. So that's where all these awesome tools that people like you and other mental health advocates are putting out there, that's where they come into play. Because now I can find my journey, just like other people find their journey and what works for them with that new mindset of I want to help myself, I want to grow, I want to do better, I want to enjoy life. And this is what makes it possible.
Yeah.
So very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool stuff.
Yeah.
On that topic of negative self-talk, what do you think about that? A lot of people say like, oh, you should try to avoid negative self-talk. I feel like it's going to happen. What do you think?
I think that that some people say that they use negative self-talk as like a motivator and like all these different things, and I think that it's like everything, that everything in moderation, right? Like, and it really depends on the timbre, and it also, I mean, if you can listen to your mind, or you can say I'm a dummy for messing up on that test or whatever, and it doesn't affect you, right? And it's not something that you wish would go away. It's you're actively using the negative side of something to motivate you towards something that's ultimately positive. Then I don't have a problem. I think it's perfectly fine. It's a good motivational tool. I'm always I'm just always really interested in, is the negative self-talk automatic, and how much automatic negative self-talk are you allowing? Because for me, a lot of automatic negative self-talk, this biting, cynical, this type of stuff, then that can make the cycle get deeper, and suddenly you're not just using negative self-talk. It's your mind is actively trying to kill you, and that's depression. So that's, but somebody who's using the negative side of things to motivate them towards something that they ultimately desire, then I mean, I don't do that myself.
Sometimes it can fuel progress, is what you're saying, right? It can actually fuel progress.
Yeah.
But we have to go back to that awareness and note, is it fueling my progress or is it diminishing my progress?
Right.
And Maurice said powerful tool. Thanks, Maurice, for tuning in, for sticking around. He's been here since early days of the live sessions. He's been sticking with us, so he's made a ton of progress and been super supportive. So thank you so much, Maurice, for being here for the live show.
Appreciate it, Maurice. I appreciate, I've actually seen him. I don't think I follow him. I think I'm gonna follow him because he seems like an alright dude.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. It's and he's showing up, being consistent and making progress. So that's good stuff. That's what we're all about, progress out here. I think that's really cool. Just acknowledging, being aware of our thoughts, being aware that they're temporary, and not denying our thoughts, not resisting our thoughts. One thing I do with negative self-talk, because I experience it sometimes, is it comes in my head like, you're so stupid for doing that. Like you do something, you make a mistake, and your brain goes, you're so stupid, right? Yeah. And I acknowledge that, and then I step back and I say, how can I reframe it And I usually reframe it as "You're so human." That's my coping mechanism. Yeah, everybody makes mistakes. We're not perfect. You're so human. So just by reframing that thought, I can change the next time it happens, the next time I make a mistake, it starts to become automatic. You're
Yeah.
so human doing that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm human. I'm a human being.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
have to beat myself up.
Just being conscious, just making the conscious, you making the thing conscious is really where the power is. Because the automatic mind, what they call the reptile mind, that's really the issue. Allowing the reptile mind, allowing the automatic, the automatic mind to rule our life to whatever extent is not its job. Like it's not, that is that was the job when we were not, thinking emotional people. And so
Yeah.
if we can just spend more time conscious, making conscious decisions, then, in a lot of instances, some of this stuff that we get to deal with, because we build logic chains,
Yeah.
and like I talk about, these, I think it's 15 logical fallacies, these things that our mind will trick us with. And one of the really funny ones is, I don't know if you've ever been walking down the hallway or whatever, you're like at work or something, you're at school, and somebody looks at you, and your mind says that it knows what they're thinking.
Oh yeah.
We're not careful, we'll take that. And suddenly, especially we have like a guilty conscience, we did something or whatever, like we stole something, stole a cookie from the, whatever, then our mind says, oh, they know.
Yeah.
Or, oh, they,
And run with it.
yeah. And suddenly you've got this logic chain that you built up, and you're designing their death based on the fact that this, random thought came in, and you picked it up, and now it's real for you. And if we don't pay attention, if we let the automatic mind run our lives, that's how we end up in like some really weird positions, because this little tiny thing, and then that gets used, and now the next time it gets, something else gets packed on there, and then suddenly you've got like a sandstone in San Juan, essentially, in your brain, that is built on this tiny little nugget that couldn't possibly be true.
Yeah.
And so what you said, being conscious about it, that's really the key, is like, how much time do we spend in conscious awareness versus automatic awareness.
Yeah. You mentioned that reptilian brain, that primitive type mind that's automatic. That's something that I spoken with a few people about, and we talked about how it's kind of programmed just for basic survival, and it gives us that fight or flight fear response that used to keep us alive in nature. Like a tiger shows up, and your brain's like, run, or someone comes to take your food and your brain's like, you gotta fight, and it pumps cortisol, it pumps that stress hormone, and it elevates your heart rate, and it gets you all, ready to go into battle or to run for your life. And that's still happening today in social situations, which is ridiculous. Like you said, you see somebody, you have a guilty conscience, and all of a sudden your brain is like, oh, they know. Uh-oh, you start perspiring, your heart rate picks up, and that's that reptilian brain that's going into fight or flight.
Yep.
And the consciousness is the thing that can take us out of it. So that's so cool. It's so cool to note, like, and just acknowledge that that's not a flaw. That's not something that we need to be like upset about. That's normal human behavior. And it's also, we have control. We can gain control over our lives and acknowledge it and accept that it's going to be there, and then use it to our benefit. So
Yes.
very cool.
Yeah, that's the, and then, so me and you were talking earlier about neuroplasticity, and talking about the brain, and how the brain works, and I really want to talk about, just for a second, because this is one of the things that's sort of um, you know I think one is really interesting, and could help people, And that's this idea that um, memory, and how memory works, and how we can use memory, and how memory actually works to change and to maybe relieve ourselves of some of the pain of our past, right? And so
Yeah.
you know so people tend to think of memory as like a tape, and
Yeah.
for years we used to think of it like that. Like if we thought that once something happened, then it's like a tape recorder, and every time you had a thought, then it was like some little thing in some little man inside your head pushed a play button, and it was like it would play the tape, and then as soon as the tape was done, then that memory would no longer play. But
Yeah.
that memory, the key thing was that memory remained. And
And that's not
so
the case at all,
it's
honestly.
not. No. So you're familiar with neuroplasticity, right? I think we talked
Yeah.
about the um so but what's cool about that is now that we know how memory actually works, which is every time you hit that play button, when you think about you were playing on your three-wheeler, and you fell down and your daddy didn't pick you up, every time you hit that play button, um it literally, once the memory is over, gets recoded. It gets
Yeah.
re-put somewhere. And interestingly enough, you can use this, especially if you had like you had something that you're trying to get away from. Like you have a dream that you're trying to alleviate yourself
A
from.
PTSD type of symptom
Yeah,
associated.
PTSD is one of those things. And some people are like, well, I can't remember that thing because it's so painful. That's okay. What you want to do is get used to the ability to you want to see whether it's, because I can tell you it's possible. I can tell you all about how it's possible, and but you're not going to know. For you, experiences or truth is based on experience, right? So once you have experience with it, then you can decide whether it's true. So instead of going straight to that thing that you never want to think about again ever in your life, start with something really simple. Start with a very simple little memory and call
Yeah.
it up. Be still, be quiet, take a couple of deep breaths, get in a quiet spot, and then do your do like a couple of breaths, and then call the memory up. Whatever the memory is, you're at the beach and you're having candy, whatever it is. And so you
Mhm.
bring that up in your mind with your eyes closed, and then you play it back. And
Mhm.
then you want to, if it was light outside, you want to make it darker. If it was bright outside, you want to make it brighter. You want to change one thing about that scene. And then you want to add another thing. Maybe you want to put like a loud, noise, or there was a loud noise, so you want to remove it, or, just, and so you want to fiddle with that memory, and you want to
Yeah.
play with this idea of using that memory, and to see whether that's true, and see exactly the power that you have with
Yeah.
with
That's very, very interesting because like what you're saying, just to paraphrase for anybody who's tuned in recently, is that memories are open to change. Memories, every time you recall it, it's open and accessible to change. So we can take a traumatic memory and actually change it through our own power into something we can use or something that's not traumatic anymore
right.
in our life. That's really interesting to me. I've looked into it, into neuroplasticity a little bit, and into that aspect of memory, and I've actually been toying with it a bit myself to try and rewrite some old memories because I only have one point of reference for a lot of memories, and it's attached to trauma or pain. So I'm trying to re-experience things like, for example, going to the beach, just as one example. I always went to the beach with a certain person who's no longer in my life, and that has a whole lot of trauma and tragedy attached to that whole situation.
Sure.
So what was happening was every time I would try to go to the beach, it would just bring up this trauma and I wouldn't have a good time, you know? But now I'm trying to continue to go to the beach and with new memories, with new mindset, with new people and experience new things at the beach. So I no longer have to associate that memory with just tragedy.
Yeah.
And I can rewrite that memory with a good feeling attached to it, and try and reframe it, reshape it in my mind. So that's my personal project for plastic memories at the moment.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is to start as close as you can to the core, wherever that is applicable, and play with the memory, and then sort of keep playing with that, like just at the very edge of wherever it is, like wherever that pain is,
Mm-hmm.
and just sort of move in closer and closer and closer, because every time you do, you're re-encoding the memory, right? And you're
Yeah.
re-encoding it in a different mindset. So the pain of the memory is diminishing as you do it. Every time you play it, every time you because the way memory works, right, is if I say the word green, instantly your mind kicks off with every instance of green, probably, I don't know, 5 billion or whatever it is. And so all of those things are connected. They're all connected to something, right? So
Yeah.
if you take the beach, then when you call the memory up, even if it's just a regular old beach scene, there's nothing to do with any pain or whatever, then where all of the times that you've played with that memory, you played that memory essentially of the beach, then
Mm-hmm.
it can release the emotion, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
instead of going straight to where you're really really hurt, just kind of start with the memory, and then sort of play with moving closer and closer to the point where you can sort of play back some of the really painful stuff, and then change it, because every time you change it, you sort of, it gets re-encoded, and it doesn't get re-encoded quite as painfully. And
Mm-hmm.
slowly but surely you can, like, every time you can. I'll be honest, mom with my dad kicked me down the hallway. Like, that used to be one, like, he literally kicked me down the hallway. Not my dad, my stepdad, who also, like, mentally and physically abused me for 4 years. But that's another story. But
Yeah.
for some reason, most of it I can't remember. But the one
Mm-hmm.
time I remember very well, and also used to, like, really bring me down hard, was the fact that he kicked me down the hallway one time,
Yeah.
and I was like 10 or something, 11. But so I used this technique to make it so that I can speak about that, and I can talk about that, and it no longer hurts. I can still remember it. I can still feel it,
Hmm.
but I don't, like, the emotion of it is no longer there, because
You were able to take that out of that memory?
yeah, because I went nuts one day and just was like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to really play with that memory to the point where it no longer, has that effect on me anymore. And
Yeah.
so, I put like a clown in it, and changed the sound, and I changed the brightness and all these different things. And I just played with it and played with it and played with it until at some point it no longer, the emotional pain, the energy has been released. And now it's just me talking about, this guy that I used to, live with. Um,
That's impressive, and a great testament to what we're capable of. That you're able to speak about it now and not have that emotional response. So thank you. That's very inspiring. Like, it gives me hope for memories I'd like to do. So,
yeah,
and
I'm
one other thing, we've got about 10 minutes left on this live feed, and then it'll just automatically cut us off.
all right.
Um,
That's it.
one thing, yeah, Instagram's got their own rules. They don't care if we've
Right.
still got something to talk
I don't care
about, you
what
know?
you're saying. It's not important after an hour.
Yeah, yeah. So, just one thing I wanted to mention is that it's just to reiterate that things are not permanent. Things are not, whatever anyone's feeling out there right now, it is not permanent. Feelings come and go. This depressive cycle is a cycle, like Bryan was mentioning. We'll have ups, we'll have downs. So if you're in a tough spot right now, just hang in there. Just keep going. do what you can, find ways that work for you to help alleviate some of your stress, and just know that it is not permanent. This is not a forever thing. This is something we can get past. We can get past it faster by talking about it and working together. And that's what we're trying to do out here. So I think I want to end it before we get cut off. So I want to thank you so much for being here. Great conversation. I think we did a great job. We just made another killer episode out here.
You're awesome, man. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I love your platform. I love what you're doing. I love your heart. I think the world of you, and I really appreciate you inviting me on. It's been really awesome.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you too, man. Especially like the book and what you're doing for Team Human. We're all on the same team out here.
Team Human. We need a shirt, man. I can't believe Human shirt right now. I've got a friend. He makes T-shirts. We can do like Team Human T-shirts.
Hey, I'm down. It's not my term, but I will use it. That's totally fine. We're all recycling ideas out here anyways, you know? So, and Maurice said thank you for the powerful discussion. You're very welcome, Maurice. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. And that's all the time we have today. So I think it's about time we punch out against depression.
All right.
I'll catch you guys next time. Oh, tune in for the live session at 6 p.m. We'll be doing that physical training with those mental health tools to knock out depression in other ways.
All right.
So, thank you, Bryan.
Peace, everybody.
Take care.
Yourself.